This is the Korg Electribe 2 Synth music production workstation. As you can see from the pattern names, it covers a multitude of different styles. Welcome to the series on the Korg Electribe and how you can use it as a music workstation to create your beats, basses, and synths. This external synth is quite the workhorse. It comes packed with a great selection of patches and parts and features. And in this series, I'm going to take you through on a walk around on the device and how to get up and running with it and start creating your own productions with it. Currently, I've got this Chill Wave 2 pattern, and let me just play through again so you can hear the sounds. Now I can go to part mute and mute some of these parts. So this is just the drums here on the low parts. I can bring back the synths, take out some of the drums, and then bring back everything else. So let's first start by talking about getting set up with the Electribe. So the unit is powered up by a power supply. I can hold down this button to power it down, and then press it down again to power it up. And just make sure that you don't hit any of the buttons while it's powering up. Now, another cool thing about the device is that it's also battery powered. It takes 6 AA batteries, and this is pretty neat because then this little workstation can really become a mobile studio for you. So leave the laptop at home and then just take this device with you out to a coffee shop and make some beats. And this brings me probably to the biggest takeaway point about this device, and that's that it has limitations. You can only have sequences that are so long, you're limited by the amounts of voices that you can use and the effects. And I see this as a good thing, as you don't then get bogged down with unlimited choices within your tools, such as like your DAW, which can have unlimited track count. So you can really get down and dirty with this device and focus on building up your patterns and parts. So let's take a quick look around. As I showed you, you've got your power up button over here. Then this is the volume for the output for the device. And then this is the input level. So if you're using an audio input source, then you can adjust it with this level. I'll show you how this works a bit later in the series. Then this display shows any data on any parameter that you have selected and the edit values of it. So I'm cycling through the patterns over here and it changes in this display. If I jump over to the cutoff filter, you can see that it shows its value there and how it's being edited. This big knob over here is called the value knob. It doesn't have a name because as you change different things and use this knob, it takes on that parameter. So just know that this will show you a value of what you've got selected. So if you go through into the menu, for example, and change the BPM, now this value knob becomes the tempo adjustment of the BPM. And then when you go out, it changes the patterns. Underneath this display, you've got your transport functionality. You've got record, stop, play, pause, and a tap tempo function. Then under this, you've got your touchpad, and your touchpad is edited by these 4 buttons. You can enable a gate arpeggiator and then play an ARP pattern on this touchpad. You can use the touch scale to input notes within a specific scale set up for the pattern. You can use master effects and use this dial to increase the wet amount of those master effects at different points within your arrangement. And you can also hold those master effects. These buttons over here just allow you to navigate the display and the menu functions. And there's some other functionality. For example, with Shift, if you use this button, it gives different functions to some of the parameters. For example, if you're cycling through patterns, this just goes at one at a time. If you hold down Shift, it jumps through a lot faster, so you can really navigate fast through these patterns to get access to them. And you'll see throughout the series, by holding down Shift and using another button or parameter gives you some other extra options. Moving on over here, you've got the oscillator, so you can choose the sound source for that part and adjust it and edit it. This goes through into a filter with a cutoff frequency and resonance dial. And then you can also enable the envelope generator that takes into account the amp section that I'll get to now. You've got different filter types that you can choose from. There's 16 in total. This goes through into a modulation section where you can modulate two parameters together. For example, modulating the cutoff with the amp envelope generator. And moving on to the amp envelope generator, you're going to use this to shape the transients of your sound. You enable it over here, and then you can tweak the parameters. This button that I missed here enables the master effects send for different parts. And like you saw in the master effects over here, if you enable the master effects for a part, then you can tweak it with this touchpad. And just speaking of parts, a big distinguishing factor is that these are parts, and these parts add up to a pattern. So you'll have 16 parts within a pattern. So just bear in mind that you get familiar with those terminologies. You've got parts and you've got patterns. Then ending off here, you've got your insert effects. So on each part, you can add a different insert effect. You can enable it here, and then you edit it. These buttons here allow you to navigate through the different parts. As you can see with the blue button, it's jumping to different parts that you have selected. As you saw, you could use part mute to mute specific parts within the sequence. You can erase some of them. And then these buttons are the different modes you can use. Trigger will trigger the sound of each part. These are the drums. And then these are synth sounds. Sequence mode allows you to write in a step sequenced pattern. So this part over here is the kick, and then that is a sequence pattern that's been programmed in for that kick. Then onto the next mode. Keyboard mode allows you to play in like a keyboard on these pads. And then chord will allow you to play a chord with a single hit of a pad. Then step jump and pattern set are advanced functionalities that I will discuss later in this series. To finish off, I just want to talk about these 4 buttons here. Now, depending on what mode you've got selected here, these do different things. In sequencer mode, this will show you the 4 different 16-step sequences that you have. So it'll light up to each one as it plays through. With keyboard mode, with these, you'll use them to jump between different octaves within the keyboard. So just bear in mind that these buttons do different things depending on what mode you're in. So that gives you a very quick and brief run through on this unit so that you know where everything is. But we're going to dive deeper into the whole functionality of this unit and how you can navigate these sections and how to use them.